Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Dance Teacher Pep Talk. I am your host, Amanda, and I am so glad you are here. This is a space for dance teachers and anyone interested in teaching dance who is looking for motivation and fresh ideas. As teachers, we spend our days motivating and giving pep talks to our students, and now this podcast is a pep talk just for you. We hope that it helps to ignite new ideas and even work through some deep dance-related thoughts before you head into the studio. Thank you for your support, and now let's get into today's episode. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of Dance Teacher Pep Talk. I am really looking forward to talking about today's topic, and it's because it's been one that's really heavy on my mind. And I don't mean heavy on my mind in a bad way. I just mean that it is really has my thoughts full of at this time. And so at this time of year, I am really getting ready for the busyness of competition season. And I know that some of you are already in the heart and soul of the competition season already, but I am not there just yet, but almost. And this is something that has really been in my thoughts, as I mentioned. So today, what we're going to be talking about is achievement and what it means and what it looks like for us. Because if there is anything that we as teachers can do, I think it's important that we provide space, time, and energy in giving our dancers the tools towards a happy and healthy life in whatever way possible. And something that has been coming up for me a lot is dancers that have gone on, to graduate or gone on to other paths and things like that, checking in with them and seeing how they are. Something that they always say to me is how much they miss competition. And it got me thinking, why? Why is it that we miss competition? What is it about it? They're not saying necessarily that they miss recital. They're not saying that they necessarily miss another performance. Sometimes they'll say that they miss class, that the class experience is different depending on what they're doing in their dance lives at that time, but really specifically competition. And I think, this is just my thoughts, but a part of it, I believe, is the constant gratification that we get at a competition event. And it's not always a good weekend. It's not, I'm not saying that every weekend is great, but it's this immediate feedback, this immediate gratification against all of the work that we're doing. And that I could see being such a thrill. I could see why dancers are saying they miss that the most because, okay, you're putting in so much hard work. And then you have 3 or 4 competitions in a season, or maybe even more, depending on how many you bring your team out to. But it is this constant high energy feeling of performing and getting feedback and award ceremonies and excitement and being at the studio and pepped up with your friends. Yes, I can see why that would be missed. I can see why we are so excited around competition and all that is competition. But then another part of me was thinking about this because we live in a very performance-driven society. We are always looking for results. We're looking for results when it comes to the work we're doing, results on the project that we're working on, results for our health in different ways. We very much live in a world where achieving is highlighted. And same thing with competition. There is all that achievement that's going on there. And so the things that I was thinking about is how we view and how we handle achievement and also how we weigh it in our lives. Because if we are constantly looking for those performance-driven results, we're looking for the good job, we're looking for the you did it, we're looking for the praise, we're looking for all of the great things that come of these lessons that we're being taught, it may feel difficult when we're not receiving those. So it really got me thinking, where is it that I try to find the thrill in my life, especially when it comes to achievement? I find that it's very difficult to go through the day without feeling like I'm working hard towards a purpose of some kind, whether it's for my work that I do, whether it's for the home, whether it's for the podcast. I always feel like the sense of needing to do. And I know that is also an issue that is seen and discussed and talked about in the millennial generation. I've seen the memes, I've seen the reels. So I know that the ability to just be is very difficult for many of us. And I think it comes down to maybe, the schooling that we had too. Everything was performance driven. I was one of the first classes that took the MTELs, which is a testing system in Massachusetts. And it was so stressed upon us that you needed to get a good grade or a good score on the MTEL, and it had a play in what your college life might be like or what your application to schools might be like. And so, I know that this pressure in the performance-driven achievement type of pressure is probably even more so on the dancers and students nowadays too, with the many other things. We had the SATs and things like that. There's so many different things out there that you're really equating achievement towards where you're going to go. And just like competition, you may be an incredible dancer and you could have a bad day at competition. And you could be an incredible academic student and you could have a bad test day. So it's so difficult because when we're looking at the longevity in that, I think it's so important to help our dancers to find this and to understand this, because we don't want their worth to feel weighted in the achievements that they're making at competition. Sure, it can be a huge part of it. It's a huge motivator. But I think it's important to start finding achievement even within the day-to-day class setting. I'm going to dive into some of those ideas later in today's episode, but just some other thoughts around this. So as I'm recording this, the Super Bowl just happened, and I will be honest, I do not really follow football at all during the year, but I do watch the Super Bowl, and something that really catches my eye is the beginning. When all the players are brought up in a close-up and they're playing the national anthem or, whatever song it is, and there is so much incredible joy and so much incredible achievement. You can see it on their faces oh my gosh, we're here. And that is such an amazing feeling. I think that we need to also foster and, acknowledge and celebrate, because yes, we made it. We made it to competition. We worked so hard all year. And that is that sideline Super Bowl moment. I mean, not maybe to the degree at all of Super Bowl, but to, put some of that feeling of achievement and accomplishment there. You can see those football players, they've been working their entire lives, their entire careers to get to that moment. And when you see them there on the sidelines and you just see them reveling in the space that we're about to play this game and we have no idea how it's going to go, it could turn out great, or maybe it might not turn out as great as we hope, but there's so much in that moment. And I even think about too, right before the halftime show happened, I got so much backstage energy feeling inside, literally jitters, because I knew what it was like to think about, what are those performers thinking right now? They're about to perform in the Super Bowl. Usher even, he is about to sing in the Super Bowl halftime show. And it's just that feeling you have no idea what's going to happen. There are so many variables that could occur, but yet it's so much excitement. We're here. We're doing this. This is really happening. And I could feel that energy, even though I was just watching from a living room. Basically, what I'm trying to say with this is, how can we find that feeling for us? Even within the classroom setting, we're about to head out on stage with the work we're doing, and we are working so hard. So be proud of how far you are in this moment. Be proud of what has gotten you to this place, because we don't know what your performance is going to be like. We train and hope for the best. That's why we train. But it's this moment right here, this moment of excitement for what is to come, that I think we can just really try to harness. And it doesn't have to do with the achievement or the results. I mean, I know that dance educators, time and time again, we say it doesn't matter what the medal is, it doesn't matter what the score, but it matters the learning, what you take away from it, the push that it has on you for your own performance, because I do feel that it gives you an element of, really working and striving towards more. But can we shift the view of achievement on that first moment, the moment of we are here and we are about to go to competition? Because whatever happens, happens, but the achievement is right there beforehand. All the work that you put in, all the time, all the effort, being proud of that and going into it with confidence that you have done and worked hard on all it is that you're about to share. and really shifting that mentality. So it's not about what happens at the end of the competition, but what's happening before and how we can really revel in that achievement there. I even think about this podcast in general as a space. When I first thought of the idea to begin Dance Teacher Pep Talk, I was so excited. It was such a rush. It was definitely like a sideline Super Bowl moment because I didn't know what was going to happen, but I knew that it felt very special and important to me. And so riding with it, I just keep thinking about, what is the driving force behind what I'm doing? Like, what is my end goal? And for me, it's just the joy of bringing the episodes to the platform and bringing these ideas and these topics and meeting and connecting with guests that, really share in the same love and energy of dance and teaching dance that we all do. And it's so interesting to me because if you knew me as a person before this podcast, maybe not so before this podcast, but let's say in high school, I was so unbelievably shy. And if you ever said to me, you're going to have a podcast someday, I would laugh in your face. There's no way, because I wouldn't even speak in class. Even though I was a very good academic student, I wasn't really one to participate very much vocally in my classes. And so this alone is an achievement in my character. And I'm not saying that to be braggy or anything like that. I'm just saying it to note that maybe there are areas in your life or areas in your dance life that you have come a very far way and you don't even realize it. And that in itself is such an achievement, even if it doesn't feel like you're checking off an item on a box on a to-do list for a project that you're trying to accomplish. Growing up at dance, I try to always put myself back into the perspective of the student too. And so growing up with dance, we were always working towards something. It was such a passion. And yes, I love dance. I loved it then. I loved it now. And it instilled so many valuable life lessons. But sometimes I wonder too about the way that I handled my class taking experience. And I'm really aware of that now as a teacher, because was I looking always to achieve? Almost this borderline perfection type of quality in my class experience? Or did I ever take class just to enjoy the moment? And you could ask that of your dancers, do you take your class to enjoy the moment, or are you really focused on achieving your goals? Are you upset when you go across the floor and you mix up or make a mistake in that combination, or your turns aren't where you want them to be today? Really trying to check in about that, because I think it's important to have a discussion around that and to bring awareness, because yes, we do want to work towards accomplishing our skills and achieving all that we want and our technical dreams. But if we're not taking the classes to also feel that passion, love, and joy, and, enjoy the class itself, really need to double check on that, because that I think could really lend itself to burnout. Because once that achieve mode is gone, what do you have? What is left? It also is kind of a red flag to me when achievement can't be something like resting. If I were to take a rest day, or if I were to take a break, can I feel achievement in the fact that I did that for myself? And I don't think that I'm alone in that. I do think, like I said before, that I know that it is an issue with the millennial generation, but it is just really making me open my eyes to how am I measuring success in my life, and where am I valuing certain items as more of an achievement as others. If I'm not saying that sitting down to read that book, or sitting down to watch that TV show, or taking this moment to do this for myself, if I'm not looking at that as an achievement, and I'm only looking at the product-based work that I'm doing, I do feel like that's an issue. And so how can we encourage this of our dancers too? How can we help them to find more life in their days and to live more? And it's not just about the achievements you're making at competition or the incredible skills that you're doing across the floor in class one day, but the feelings that are within your day, and the moments that you're taking for you to just be yourself. How can we encourage that more with our dancers? They are living in such a high pressure society. And if we can help them to find ways to feel good about just being, I think that's extremely important, because if we're learning how to do it ourselves, I think we should also relay that to our students, because I do think that's a big topic right now, is finding the time to just be, finding the time to have your own personal space and your own personal time. And yet we as adults are doing that, but why? It's because all these years we were not doing that. And so now, how can we start it even earlier? How can we have it be a focus and a shift for maybe our teens who are having a really difficult time completing their schoolwork, completing all that they need to do for dance, and then you have those competition weekends thrown in there too? That's a lot going on for them. So how can we help them to feel successful without it being tied to a product-based measure? As I was preparing for this episode, I wrote this note down, and it kind of is something that we could ask our students as well, especially if this is where we're trying to help guide them too. But in this life, are you going to want to remember all the doing you did? Or are you going to remember the times when you were truly just living and experiencing the greatness that is? And it kind of comes down to also, like, are you going to remember what you got on your 7th grade trio at such and such a competition? Or are you going to remember the feeling of learning that trio, being with your friends, the successes that you had, the incredible performances? To me, it's the feelings that really hold the lasting impact. I'm not going to remember the specific medal. I'm not going to remember the score, but I remember the feelings. And I always make sure to share that with my students, because in that moment right now, they're thinking on the medal, they're thinking on the scores, or they're thinking about like the performance driven achievement, not the performance itself as the feeling. And I know that when they look back, I think they're going to wish that they soaked up that feeling a little bit more. So one way that we can talk about this is really talking about performing for the sake of performing. And one way you can do this is just even by giving a combination in your classes and letting them dance to feel. In March, there is going to be an episode coming out that you are absolutely going to want to listen to. This is just like a little sidebar tangent here, but I just interviewed my best friend, Jill Kreisel. She is a 2nd grade teacher and is a responsive classroom presenter, and she gives so much incredible information about the language that we're using with our students, and also about the effects of praise and different types of praise in the dance classroom. And it really got me thinking about competition and the praise that comes with the competition world, because Jill really speaks a lot on this in the episode, so you'll definitely have to check it out then, but about the way that praise can feel and sort of like relay different thought patterns for our dancers in how they, again, it comes back to that like achievement, because, okay, I did this, I got a good job. I did this, I got a great job. I did this. And then what happens when the time comes that we don't get that? And so when we are going on in life after graduation and these dancers are telling me they're missing competition, it makes me wonder if they're missing that good job, if they're missing that achievement-based thing. So how can we also help our dancers to feel good about what they're doing even when the praise isn't there? Because the praise that they give themselves individually can be something that is really going to help to carry them on. You know, even as educators, we don't always get the good job. We don't get the, you're doing an amazing job, you know, like we're not given that. Maybe here and there you'll get a shout out on your choreography from a judge feedback, but you're not necessarily getting that all the time. And so we have to believe in the work that we're doing. And if we are sharing that with our students for them, I think that's really important, because that's going to set them up to really feel more confident and to feel more secure in who they are as they go on, whether they continue with dance or not. And so, as I was mentioning before, performance for the sake of performance. Can we give a class combination and not give praise? Maybe give notices, give direction on what's going on, but that the praise and gratification that the dancers feel has to come from themselves. Have you ever done that? Have you ever had a day where we do combination and we just don't give feedback? We just dance to dance. You know, if you ask me that, honestly, no, I cannot remember a single time where I've given a combination and not given the feedback, because as a teacher, I feel that's my goal. I feel that I need to do that. I feel like it's a part of my job that I'm supposed to be giving feedback. But if we are looking for them to feel successful in dance just because of the work they're putting in and the time they're putting in, that would mean at times, okay, pull back on the feedback and just let them dance, let them feel, and let them find it for themselves. Because if I say to them, oh, that was beautiful when you did this, well, maybe they didn't feel that that moment was beautiful for themselves. And so then it's me putting my ideas onto them. So can we ever give it a try where we just allow them to have the space to be and just a space to experience? And I always talk about too, like the best feelings that I've ever danced, and just how what was attached to that? Why was that a good time? Why was it the music that it literally just made my body sore? And I don't mean sore in like a painful way. I mean like sore as in like I felt like I was flying as I was doing the dance. Or, moments that I just felt so elated because I was dancing because I loved it. And I'm sad to say sometimes those moments are few and far between, because a lot of the times I was more focused on getting the material correct or doing it correctly or really like pushing myself to be the best I could be instead of just doing it because I love it. And definitely as I aged and, grew up through the years in dance, I definitely focused on that more because I think I realized that. But as a younger teen, I did not. And that is something that I would love to help guide and instill in my teens. So something that you could do, like I said, other than giving a combination just for the sake of dance, is maybe talking to your dancers. And this is actually, I should rephrase this. This is a tip for all of us because I think that we can do this too, is thinking about how we can find and feel achievement in our days, even when it's not a product-based performance thing. Like, okay, I did the dishes, check. Or, okay, I choreographed my combo for the day, check. Things like that, no, not necessarily that we're going to be having on this list. These are things that we are going to have as feeling-based achievements. So in a dance class, what is one thing I'm going to accomplish today? You could start it as easy as that. When it comes to feelings, I'm going to be really patient with myself, or I'm going to give myself a lot of grace when it comes to across the floor because I don't like direction changes. And sometimes I get really confused, but I'm just going to allow myself to go into progressions with patience today for myself. Okay. So maybe that's the feeling that somebody is holding on to. Maybe it could even be built on 3 ideas. And this could be, like I said, this is where it could be for us too. But one could be a feeling that you want to feel for work that day, a feeling that you want to feel for yourself, and one for your family. You could choose different categories as well. For a student, another way we could guide this is, for your day. What's one feeling you want to get through with your school day, one for your dance day, and one for your home life? In a class itself, you could break down these 3 ideas of what do we want to feel for our bodies in our class today? What do we want to feel for our minds today? And what do we want to feel for our souls? So these are ways that we can guide this. Finding achievement based in the feeling and not on the physical, tangible results. And just to feel the excitement in that feeling. And my hope in what comes of this is that knowing that doing that one thing or feeling that one feeling was enough. We don't need to bombard, we don't need to high pressure any situation, but rather we just really want to experience. And so if our accomplishment could be, like I said, having patience and grace for yourself when you're going across the floor. Maybe it could be when it comes time for the combination, I'm going to physically put myself in the front when maybe I shy towards the back, okay? Or maybe when it comes time for a class feeling that I'm having, I'm going to turn off my mind to all outside stressors and focus just within the space itself. So as you can see, these are not things that you could see. It's all things that are going on within. Another example too to share with your dancer's body, mind, soul, maybe for the body, maybe it's like a specific goal that you want to have. Like, I want to feel strong today. And maybe for your mind, it's today I really want to be able to work on picking up the choreography. Okay. Yeah, maybe that might be more of like a physical, tangible achievement. However, it is more of a mental one because we are thinking about mentally picking up those notes of the choreography. And maybe for our soul, maybe when it comes time for combination, we're just going to dance to dance and we are going to let it out and we are going to just share in the moment that is that moment. So with today's episode, I hope that it got you thinking about what does achievement look like for you? How do you measure success in your day? And how can we shift to making feelings be something that we feel more connected to in our achievements than the high pressure that we may put on ourselves to get things done, to show things, or to complete tasks on a list? How can we bring more life in our days? And therefore, how can we also help our students to do the same? Because these aren't just lessons that we're learning. These are lessons that we can share with our students as well. And I don't know about you, but I don't want my students to get to age 30 and feel that this is something that they are just learning how to do. I want them to be able to have that experience now and to feel that joy now. Because isn't that what it's all about? is just finding the beauty in the life that we have at this moment, at this time, and sharing that, and sharing the love that is dance, and not being so worried or preoccupied all the time with the achieving aspect of things. So this week, I challenge you to try the combination for the sake of combination, and let your dancers know ahead of time that we're not giving feedback, because we need to find that internal feedback for ourselves. We can cheer each other on, but beside that, just enjoy that process that is. I hope that you all have a beautiful rest of your week. I want to thank you so much for your support of Dance Teacher Pep Talk. I hope that today's ideas have gotten you thinking about how we can discuss achievement with our students and different ways that we can view achievement in our lives. And I highly recommend you following our Instagram at Dance Teacher Pep Talk, where I include special classroom tips and other resources, and of course, announce episodes before they're about to come out. So thank you all so much for your support and your listens, and I'll talk to you next week.